Si mantienes la cabeza en su sitio, cuando a tu alrededor todos la pierden, si sigues creyendo en ti mismo cuando los demás dudan, ¿qué oportunidades ves? Si te encuentras con el triunfo y el fracaso, y consigues tratar a esos dos impostores por igual, si eres capaz de ver la oportunidad, el mundo del trading es para ti. Cuando ves la oportunidad, IG.
Muy buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a una nueva edición de Trading Talks por parte de IG. Yo soy George Pizarro, gestor de clientes premium de IG para España, Portugal y Latinoamérica, y les doy la bienvenida para una charla esta tarde con Nicolas Suiffet, que es el jefe de análisis de una empresa que se llama Trading Central, una casa de análisis muy reconocida desde Francia para el resto del mundo, enfocado en el análisis técnico de los mercados principales. Ahora bien, esta charla la vamos a realizar en inglés, sin embargo, esta parte introductoria la vamos a trabajar un poquito en español, los primeros minutos, mientras doy la bienvenida a Nicolas, explico un poco cómo estamos utilizando en IG las ideas de Trading Central, y cómo las estamos aplicando al producto de turbos. Luego daré la palabra a Nicolas para que él pueda exponer más sus ideas, enfocándose principalmente en el análisis técnico. Entonces, nosotros llevamos unos meses ya este año colaborando con Trading Central. Ellos distribuyen a través de nuestra plataforma unas ideas de trading enfocado en análisis técnico para los índices principales, materias, primas y divisas, enfocado en el producto de turbos. Ahora bien, estas señales tienen un porcentaje de éxito bastante altas y nosotros queremos invitar a todos luego a suscribirse a ellas. Nosotros estamos aplicando estas ideas al producto de turbos, que es un producto que estamos haciendo mucho hincapié en los nuevos usuarios de probar y nuestros clientes actuales también, porque ofrece un apalancamiento flexible, sin comisión, con la posibilidad de usar un knockout que fija la pérdida máxima antes de abrir la posición. Está disponible las 24 horas del día en la gran variedad de mercados y también tiene la ventaja que ese knockout, digamos, esa barrera o ese stop máximo, solamente se ejecuta cuando el mercado subyacente está abierto. Así que tener en cuenta que aunque está el mercado disponible las 24 horas, este producto tiene esa ventaja de que el knockout solo se ejecuta cuando el mercado subyacente está abierto. Así que nosotros desde IG tratamos de enfocar ahora mismo el turbo como una alternativa o algo que pueda compaginar con los CFDs que hemos distribuido en España ya desde el 2008 y también las opciones barrera. En fin, no quiero robar más del tiempo de todos vosotros, más bien quiero empezar la charla con Nicolas. Así que bienvenido Nicolas, voy a pasar ahora al idioma del inglés y después de cada cierto tiempo voy a hacer resúmenes en español para que clientes que puedan compaginar un poco el conocimiento del inglés con un poco el español. Así que empezamos. Nicolas, good afternoon. We're delighted to have you here. On behalf of IG, welcome. Thank you very much for participating in this trading talk. So I've given a very brief but perhaps not very good introduction to Trading Central. So I was hoping if you could present yourself, your role and Trading Central and what it is that you guys do.
Yes, thank you, George, of course. Hello to everyone. And sorry, I don't speak Spanish, so we have to do it in English today. But of course, if you have question at the end of the presentation, you can ask your question. I think in Spanish, and George will help me to translate in English. So yeah, I'm Nicolas Suiffet. I'm in charge of the European research at Trading Central. So thank you, George, and the other members of IG Market for organizing this webinar. It will give the opportunity for us to explain the trading recommendation service and how to use it and how you should use it and how we work. We will explain how we work. So that's a very good idea. Let's start with a few words about the company. So Trading Central provides financial market solutions. We have a line of fully automated analytics in order to help customers to find new trading opportunities, to time their trades, to learn about financial markets, and also to manage their risk. So we offer different products, different solutions, depending on the needs of the investors. We can use fundamental or technical or sentiment analysis or a combination of them. And so while we have this line of quant-based analytics, we also have a global team of analysts available to assist our clients in their investment decision. Of course, they all have a solid background in technical analysis. And we have offices in Paris, so this is the headquarters, but also in London, as well as in Ottawa, in North America, in Hong Kong, and also in China. So that's important for us because we can monitor the financial markets at all times, and we can offer investors support 24 hours a day, which is very important for our clients. So that's it. That's basically what we offer to our clients. I would say this is some insight into how best to navigate the financial markets.
Okay.
And of course, we have also a website if you want to find more information about the different products.
Okay. Nicolas, if you don't mind, I'll quickly summarize what you just said for our Spanish audience, and I'll try and keep it as brief as I can.
Okay, sure.
Resumo un poco la explicación de Nicolas de Trading Central. Trading Central es una empresa francesa con sede principal en París, pero luego con oficinas en Londres, en Ottawa, en Hong Kong y en China también. Ellos se dedican a dar soluciones y apoyo en la decisión de inversión y de trading para clientes institucionales, particulares, en los mercados financieros. La cobertura es global y es 24/7, enfocado en parte en análisis técnico, gran parte en análisis técnico con un equipo global que da soporte a todas horas. La empresa con IG se dedica a aportarnos ideas de trading con frecuencia diaria o cada 2 o 3 días, según las pautas y las ideas que ellos van viendo. Esa es Trading Central. Pueden consultar el sitio web tradingcentral.com. Vale. Nicolas, and please tell us about yourself, because we're very, very happy that you've joined us today, because you have a very important role within Trading Central in managing that process of how assisting clients make those good trading decisions.
Yeah, so as I said, I'm in charge of the European research. So in Paris, at the Paris office. So we are a small team of 5 technical analysts in Paris. And yeah, our goal is to deliver on a daily basis training ideas and to assist our client, as I explained, on the best way to identify opportunities on the market. So it can be entry price or exit price on the market. We can support them as a second opinion if they want to have our view on a stock, on an index, or the forex market, whatever the commodities. We can cover all the different asset classes. So yeah, our goal is to provide on a day-to-day basis advice to our clients for day trader and also to long-term investors, because that's the beauty, I would say, of technical analysis. That's we can provide some information and some insight for day traders on an intraday basis. And also it works for long-term investors. So that's why technical analysis is very useful, and it's a kind of universal. So that's why it's interesting. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll summarize that and then we'll dive into the details. Resumo, entonces, Nicolas es el jefe de investigación y análisis para los mercados europeos, de la Oficina Europea en París. Él es el jefe de un equipo de analistas técnicos que buscan ideas de trading tanto a nivel intradía y de muy corto plazo en una variedad de activos, como también brindando apoyo a decisiones que ya se toman más a mediano plazo o largo plazo. Nosotros dentro de IG ofrecemos las ideas de intradía o de muy corto plazo, pero sí que es verdad, que lo comentaba Nicolás, que una de las cosas positivas o buenas que se ve del análisis técnico es que es universal, se puede aplicar desde cualquier parte del mundo y en cualquier temporal, digamos, o temporalidad de tiempo. Entonces, ellos buscan estas oportunidades y estas ideas a nivel constante para tratar de brindar ese plus que buscan los clientes y los traders. Entonces, voy a pasar ahora a ceder la palabra más a Nicolás para ver un poco más en detalle lo que ellos hacen para identificar estas ideas. ¿Vale? So, I think introductions are all set. So, I'll just invite you, Nicolas, if you may, to just dive in and talk to us a bit about methodologies, how you approach analyzing markets, and the sort of things that you and your team get up to deliver on these trading ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Sure. So I think the best way is to start from the trading recommendation we sent yesterday on the Nasdaq 100. So I will start talking with the report that we sent. So maybe some of you guys received this alert yesterday. So I will explain first the trading ideas yesterday, and then I will switch to the platform so I can explain why we choose this the Nasdaq 100 and why we thought it was an interesting technical configuration to open a long position on the Nasdaq 100 yesterday. So yeah, the report. So you receive this kind of report. So you have a kind of introduction, which is quite classic. Then here you have a very important information. Of course, you have the product. So this is the Nasdaq 100. You've got the direction, which is long position. So we decided to buy the Nasdaq 100 yesterday afternoon. You've got some technical information, and very important one is the knockout level. So it's this one. So on the Nasdaq 100 yesterday, we decided to choose for you a technical a knockout level at 13,015, as you can see here. So this is a very important information and technical level, because if prices fell below this level, the knockout, it will deactivate the product, and so you will lose the capital invested, all the capital invested. So it's very important to keep in mind that this kind of technical level, so the knockout, is very important for you to keep in mind, because if prices fell below this technical level, you will lose your capital invested. So that's why we choose accurate. We choose for you the good one, what we recommend to be an interesting knockout level according to the recommendation that we said, according to the technical level we can spot on the charts. So you have here the scenario. So you've got the product and the title. So in this case, continuation of the technical rebound. And you have here the pivot point, which is one of the most important level on the chart. And this pivot point can be considered as a stop loss for you. So as you can see here, the pivot point that we chose yesterday was 13,250, which is above the knockout level, which is 13,015 here. So that's why you have a kind of a margin, and you will not lose all your capital invested if things go wrong, if the scenario is invalidated, if the Nasdaq 100 reverse down, the price reverse down in the coming hours or in the coming days, you can stop the long position and you can close your position if prices fell below this technical support that we have identified for you, so 13,250. So that's why it will limit your loss if things go wrong. So that's why we choose each time a knockout level which is below the pivot point, the stop loss, if we open a long position, and of course if we open a short sell position, it will be the contrary. The knockout level will be above the stop loss. So you've got the pivot point, the stop loss. You've got the main scenario, the preferred scenario here. So as long as prices are above the stop loss 13,250, we will expect a continuation of the rise towards the target set at 13,800 and 13 in extension 13,887. And you've got the alternative scenario here. So in case of a break below 13,250, we would expect a decline towards the alternative support target at 13,030 and 12,900. And you have here a technical comment, in this case, a technical comment on the RSI, why we decided to buy or to sell the underlying. So in this case, we decided to buy the Nasdaq, and we explain with a comment on the RSI. And I will show you a bit more information just after on the platform, so you can better understand why we decided to buy the Nasdaq. So here you've got the charts, which summarize the information. You can see all the information that which is here in the text, in the comment. So you've got the green lines here. So this is the resistance thresholds. It's always the resistance threshold in green. So you can find the 13,800 and 13,887, which are the targets here because we are bullish. So that's why you can see the arrow towards this target. You can see the pivot point, so 13,250. This is always the blue line. So very important to keep this in mind. So you can consider that as long as prices are holding above this technical support, this level, we will expect a further rise, a continuation of the rise towards the targets here in green. And you've got in red the support threshold, which will be activated in case of a break below 13,250. So this is the alternative scenario. This is the support. So the support threshold are always in red, the resistance threshold always in green, and in blue, it's always the pivot point. So this is the level from where we would turn bullish from bearish or bearish from bullish. It depends on the scenario. You've got moving averages, always the 20 and the 50 moving averages. You've got also Bollinger Bands. You can see here the bubble on Bollinger Bands. We use Bollinger Bands to identify volatility breakout, for example. That's very, very useful. And you've got here the last price, of course, in dark here. And below, you've got the RSI. We just put the RSI, but of course, as a technical analyst, we check other technical indicators, such as the MACD, for example. But on the chart, this is a template, you will always see the RSI below the chart. So it's the easiest way for you to identify clearly and to see always the same template, and you can understand quickly the scenario. So you've got the arrow pointing to the targets, either the resistance threshold if we are bullish or the support threshold if we are bearish. And you've got always the pivot point, which is the stop loss we recommend for the training IDs, for the training recommendation. So that's for the chart. And of course, I forgot to mention that this is a 30-minute chart. You can see here the time horizon of the chart. So this is intraday. So that's one of the most difficult part, I would say, of the training of these training ID services. It means that investors have speed of action when they receive the recommendation, because this is intraday. So sometimes it can happen that when you receive the alert, prices have already reached the targets or the stop loss. It can happen. So in this case, you have to ignore the alert and just wait for the next one. We send in average 3 recommendations a week. So we try to avoid this. We try to send recommendation when the market is not too much volatile, so you have time to enter your trade and your position. But of course, it can happen that sometimes the price move very fast and you cannot open the position. So if you see, when you receive the alert, if you see that prices have already reached the targets or prices are too close, very close to the stop loss or have reached the stop loss, then you can ignore the alert and just wait for the next one in the next couple of days.
Okay, understood. Would you mind? I just want to briefly summarize just very little what you said.
Okay, sure.
45 seconds.
Sure.
Quería resumir simplemente muy brevemente lo que comentaba Nicolas en cuanto a cómo interpretar o cómo llegan a estas decisiones, también viendo las preguntas que hemos recibido. Básicamente la idea del equipo es tratar de generar un mínimo de 3 alertas o ideas por semana, un mínimo de 3 en función de los parámetros que ellos van viendo evolucionando en el mercado. Segundo punto es que tratan de construir la alerta y enviarla en una situación donde, aunque haya volatilidad y haya oportunidad, tampoco que sea una volatilidad muy grande que hace que uno llegue tarde a la alerta. Y ellos consideran que si llegas tarde a la alerta es mejor ignorarla y esperar a la siguiente, el día siguiente o 2 días después. Entonces ellos buscan o ellos entienden que a veces uno recibe alerta, pero entre recibirla, procesarla y actuar puede tardar un tiempo. Por último, quería destacar, ellos escogen el knockout, el nivel de knockout, para fijar el riesgo máximo que puedes emplear y perder si la posición va en contra, pero también el punto pivote 13.250 en este ejemplo, que sería el stop loss. Quería yo destacar que en la última semana hemos introducido los stops a los turbos, algo muy reclamado por nuestros clientes que operaban en el producto, y ahora podrías emplear, por ejemplo, un stop loss. Ellos recomiendan el punto de pivote que ellos destacan en azul como el nivel de stop, por ejemplo, en esta operación del Nasdaq. Vuelvo a dar la palabra a Nicolas. Sorry, Nicolas, that was just very quick. Sorry to interrupt your flow. Please, as you were.
And I forgot to mention, maybe also you can add this in Spanish, but regarding the alternative scenario, so in case of prices fell below the stop loss, you can decide, they can decide to play the alternative scenario, but we don't calculate performance on the alternative scenario. So they can do it if they consider that the trend has reversed and they can play the alternative scenario. But just for information, we recommend to wait for a 60-minute close below or above the stop loss, the pivot point, before changing the scenario in order to avoid false signal, because very often you can see some spike around the pivot point area in the zone, and you can have some false signals. So they have to be careful. They can, if they want to play the alternative scenario, or when they want to put a stop loss order, they have to be careful about that. So we recommend to wait for validation of the breakout of the pivot point before changing the scenarios.
Okay, I'll add that point if I may. Un punto que quería destacar, Nicolás, es que cada señal presenta una alternativa, una segunda alternativa por si no aciertan con la postura principal. Entonces ellos recomiendan esperar a que, por ejemplo, en este caso, que el Nasdaq, en vez de cumplir con esa subida, vuelve al punto pivote y pase el punto pivote y luego pillar la primera extensión en la escenario alternativo para luego ir y invertir o tomar postura tratando de buscar esa segunda alternativa, que sería la de ir bajista en este caso. Entonces ellos recomiendan siempre ir siempre por el escenario principal, pero bueno, si ellos ven que el escenario alternativo se empieza a cumplir, esperar a que el punto de pivote entra en juego y después recalibrar y buscar un stop loss para esa posición si es que buscas el segundo escenario. En este caso hubiese sido el escenario bajista. Okay, I think that was translated more or less well.
Thanks. Yeah, no, thank you, Joe. And what I want also to add is that just to show you, you can decide also to choose another product. So as I explained, we choose the product with a knockout yesterday at 13.015. So you can see here, I think you can see my screen. We will find it here. So it is this one. You can see my mouse right now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it's this one. So we have a leverage of 21. So of course the clock out changed a little bit, but it is this one, this product. So the clock out, the leverage is around 21. So that's why the technical the product from IG are very interesting, because you can find some very high leverage products. So you can play intraday movement. You don't need to expect a huge movement on the markets, such as, especially on indices. You don't have to wait for 10% rise on the indices before making a profit, an interesting profit. Thanks to the leverage, you can play just a small movement, so between 1% rise, and you can expect around 20-30% gain on the trading ID, on the recommendation. So that's why we try to offer, and we always try to have a risk around 30% loss. So it means that if prices reach the stop loss, the loss will be around 30% on the recommendation. So then you can choose to not follow the stop loss and to wait for the knockout. It's up to you. Sometimes it will work. That's great, but keep in mind that if the knockout is reached, you will lose your capital investment. But you can do it, and of course you can also choose another product. You have a highly leveraged product, as you can see. So with a high leverage than the one we choose yesterday. And of course, you can also choose a product with a lower leverage, such as around this one, around 10, if you want to take more risk, less risk. So it's up to you. It depends on your risk management and on the amount you want to play on this trade and how you manage your position. So it's up to you, but keep in mind that we always try to offer a knockout with around 30% loss, potential loss, and around and the gain, the gain can be in average around, I think, maybe 30-50%. Maybe George, you have more information on that than me. I know that you also checked some recommendations, so you have also information on that. But that's in average what we try to provide. So around 30% loss maximum on the recommendation. But you can choose different product. It's up to you. You can play with it. You have very a lot of choice. So that's very great. The high leverage product from IG, you have many scenarios possible thanks to the high leverage. You can see here a 46 leverage, which is very, very high and also very dangerous. That's of course that's obvious. So I just wanted to add this regarding the product and how we choose the knockout, and maybe they can choose another one depending on their risk management, of course.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yes, I'll translate it briefly. Simplemente para comentar un poco, la idea de escoger el knockout, el punto pivote es el nivel importante, digamos, para el stop loss, pero escoger el knockout es buscar un nivel ya que sería la máxima pérdida. Ellos buscan más o menos, o recomiendan como a nivel general, buscar que el turbo pierde un 30% y ellos tratan de buscar ganancias de 50 o 60% o más en el valor del turbo. En este caso, eso sí, Nicolás destacaba que realmente esto también depende del apetito de riesgo de cada uno. Lo bueno del turbo es que tienes un apalancamiento flexible. Entonces, ellos escogieron un knockout en particular, pero para este producto, este turbo alcista, pueden escoger un knockout más cercano al nivel de entrada, que esto aumenta el apalancamiento que usted recibe. Sin embargo, sí que también ofrece un mayor riesgo. Entonces es un poco la dinámica que quería presentar. Una cosa que quiero destacar, sorry, Nicolas, we're getting a few questions about whether they receive this content in Spanish, so I'm just going to take 30 seconds just to emphasize.
Yeah, sure.
Algunas preguntas que hemos recibido quizás sobre la filtración de estas señales y que si recibes apoyo en español. Sí, la idea es que estas señales las reciben completamente en español, por lo menos 3 veces por semana, si no más. La idea es que Trading Central hace el filtro ellos mismos, buscando la mejor idea, lo que ellos piensen que sea la idea de mejor acierto, y eso lo único que es necesario hacer por parte del inversor en IG es darse de alta con el link que está en el chat, o si no, contactar con nosotros para recibir ese link, para darse de alta y así empieza a recibir estas alertas en su idioma, ¿vale? So yes, I think we've covered that. Is there anything else you wanted to touch upon with regards to how you come to creating these alerts or
Yes. So just to explain now on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing this, yeah. On the platform, just to explain a little bit more why we choose the Nasdaq yesterday. What's the technical reason we choose the Nasdaq, so they can understand. So as I said, we try to identify either continuation trend signals or reversal trend signals. So yesterday on the Nasdaq, it was a reversal trend signal which has been spotted thanks to the validation of what we call classic double dip pattern, double bottom pattern. You can see here on an intraday basis. So the first dip here, the second dip here, and the validation of the pattern here thanks to the upside breakout of the neckline. Also, we identify the breakout of the declining trend line, which was in place since the beginning of this month, so the beginning of May. And so the breakout of this trend line combined with the validation of the double bottom pattern, the double dip pattern, was a bullish event clearly on the Nasdaq 100, and it turns the trend bullish again on the Nasdaq. Nothing very interesting to note on the RSI, on an intraday basis at least. We will see that on a daily chart, it's not the same thing. And we had this pullback yesterday just before market open. So that's why we decided to open a long position thanks to this market pullback, the price pullback towards the neckline of the pattern and towards the declining trend line here. So that's why for intraday basis, so we identify 2 bullish events, the validation of a double bottom pattern, which is reversal of trend pattern, and the breakout of the short-term declining trend line, the declining trend line in place since May. If we switch, and the target of this pattern, of this double bottom pattern, is set at 13,887.88. So that's why you can see on the alert these targets. I forgot. Yeah, here. You can see here the targets on the technical alerts. So we calculated the target thanks to the validation of the double bottom pattern. You can see here in extension, if you want to keep the position open, if prices reach the target at 13,887, you can decide to keep the position open if you want and expect in extension, the next bullish target on the Nasdaq 100 would be 14,204, which is the 151.8% Fibonacci projection, which is a very often a very important Fibonacci projection level. So that would be another profit-taking area. And by the way, I forgot to mention that regarding the trading ideas, we usually recommend to take half profit on the first target and to close the position on the second target. I forgot to mention that before, but this is what we recommend for you when you open a position and you want to follow this trade. If you want to follow this trade, we recommend to take half profit on the first target and close position on the second one.
Is there any reason, or is it just as good management of profit building? Or any reason for that? Yeah.
No, it's just that we identify that it's the best way very often. The best way would be to update the trade and to adjust the stop loss, etc., and to follow up the trade and the trade ideas. But it's complicated process, I would say. So for this kind of service, this is the best rule to follow, I think, because there is no follow-up. So in this case, the best way to manage your position is to take half profit on the first target and to close the position on the second one. So we will consider that we are out of the trade if prices reached either the first target or the second target.
Okay. I will try to summarize very quickly what you mentioned, if I may, Nicolas.
Yeah, sure.
Entonces, voy a resumir un poco lo que explicaba Nicolás, la idea de por qué generaron la señal ayer de esta manera. Pues ellos llegaron a la conclusión justo en el Nasdaq que presentaba dos argumentos plenamente alcistas. La primera era que teníamos un doble suelo, una confirmación de un doble suelo, y segundo, la ruptura de una línea tendencial alcista. Si a eso le sumas que justo en la apertura había una bajada que hasta mejoró la oportunidad de entrar con la postura alcista, pues ellos buscaron el posicionarse al alza en el Nasdaq. Una cosa que sí omitimos de mencionar, ellos recomiendan que para el primer objetivo, si se llega a cumplir, de cerrar 50% de la posición y mantener los restantes 50% para el segundo objetivo. De esta manera, más bien manejar bien la posibilidad de mantener una posición con ganancias, que sabemos que siempre es difícil para clientes y para traders, y también para manejar mejor lo que es el ratio de riesgo-beneficio, ya cuando ha cumplido la primera extensión. La segunda me parece que era para el nivel de Fibonacci que ellos siempre parecen interesados en buscar, el del 161,8. Es un poco la idea detrás de esa idea de trading que se presentó ayer. Nicolas, I've try to do the best I can to explain that idea. So yes, as you were. Apologies.
Okay, yeah, I switched to the daily charts now. So we check the intraday charts, and now I wanted to show you the daily chart because as a technical analyst, we of course check a different time horizon. So when we want to open a position on an intraday basis, of course we check the daily configuration and also the weekly configuration before opening the trade, because very often it can confirm or infirm the technical signals. So on a daily chart on the Nasdaq yesterday, we identify on a short term this key trend line support. So prices, as you can see here, have landed on this trend line support and started to post a rebound. Also, we can identify here a long lower shadow candlestick, which means that buyers open long position around this area. It was very a key trading day so this day last week was very important. And you can see here the formation of the double bottom pattern. On the RSI, you can see here the key support zone. So the RSI rebounded from the key support zone around the 30% area and has broken above a key declining trend line. And the RSI is now trading above the former high here. So it has pushed above the former high and is trading above 50%, meaning that the trend on the RSI has turned bullish. So it doesn't mean that we will see the same thing on the price, but it's an interesting, I would say, bullish event coming from the RSI on a short-term basis on the Nasdaq. And in addition, we can also notice that prices have pushed above yesterday the 20-day moving average. You can see here the 20-day moving average in green, which played a resistance role since the beginning of this month, beginning of May. So we had a first test here. We had a second test at the end of last week. Here you can see here the candlestick. And yesterday we were breaking above the 20-day moving average. So that's why we decided here during the breakout to open a long position. So as you can see, we combine intraday chart analysis with daily chart analysis. The bullish signal coming on an intraday chart, thanks to the validation of the double bottom pattern and the breakout of the trend line, was confirmed by the breakout on a daily chart of the 20-day moving average. So that's how we try to identify some opportunities. So that's just an example. Of course, there is a lot more, there is many more technical configuration. But in this case, I just wanted to show you a concrete example. In this case, we combine intraday chart analysis with the daily chart analysis, and we try to identify buying or selling signal on both, and we try to combine this to offer you the training ideas.
Okay. I'll summarize as well as I can what you mentioned. Voy a simplemente tratar de ofrecer un resumen de lo que acaba de comentar Nicolás. Aparte de analizar con gráficos de muy corto plazo, también buscan compaginar y reconfirmar la idea del gráfico inicial con gráfico ya mirando a diario y semanalmente. En este caso, el ejemplo que ha presentado es del gráfico diario, y el gráfico diario también, aparte de reconfirmar el doble suelo, también en este caso demostraba que había una ruptura de la media móvil de 20 días, que ellos estaban fijando bastante, y eso también ayudó a confirmar la señal de entrar de forma alcista, además de que la tendencia en el RSI, aunque no fuese necesariamente el precio, pero el RSI marcó un nuevo máximo y logró rupturar esa tendencia bajista que había demostrado en los últimos días. También una fecha clave que fue el 19 de mayo, que sería el miércoles de la semana pasada, donde hubo una sombra en las velas demostrando que había compradores entrando en el mercado en ese nivel de resistencia que marca el gráfico. Así que la idea, tratar de explicar, quizás no es un método exacto, la idea es tratar de generar 2 o 3 argumentos, en este caso alcistas, en un gráfico de corto plazo y tratar de buscar esas confirmaciones en gráficos ya temporales de diariamente y semanalmente. ¿Vale? Yes, Nicolas, I think I've summarized your approach, which is to look at generating a signal basis, a couple of, in this case, bullish arguments that then when you went to the daily chart, they were supported by further arguments that made your conviction to go long even stronger, correct? And this is something that you look to do in all your trading ideas.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for the translation. So that's it for me for this part. We can, that's it for me.
Okay. I think we're here. What a lot of our clients or our viewers or our listeners right now would be interested to know a little bit about how you would be looking at the market right now? A lot of people are talking about inflation. A lot of people are talking about how that can potentially affect a bullish market that we've seen since March 2020 or April 2020. And I was just wondering whether you had or your team had a view or some interesting views or insights on how you see markets currently, not just a specific trading idea.
Yeah, sure. Very interesting question indeed. That's what everyone is asking right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of concern, but I will share my screen and I will speak about a few indices and some commodities and forex pair as well.
Mm-hmm.
So first, I will just share my screen regarding the stock 600. So here you can see the chart of the stock 600. So this is the European benchmark. So we can have a big picture and an idea of the European markets thanks to the stock 600 index. What we can see that the trend remains bullish for the moment on the European markets. You can see that on a short-term basis. So maybe I will just adjust and zoom out a little bit. You can see a short-term rising trend line, which is in place since the end of last year. You can see here the trend line, and prices are still holding above this short-term trend line. So that's a bullish technical support for the European markets, at least on a short-term basis. However, we can notice that prices now are facing up the upper end of this consolidation pattern here, which is a kind of a broadening wedge pattern. So there is a possibility of consolidation move below this resistance threshold. So we can see here the resistance at 448 on the stock 600. So a consolidation is possible, but if we look at the technical indicators, we don't see any clear reversal signal for the moment, any warning signal coming from the RSI. You can see here that the RSI has landed on a key support base around 50% and is breaking above a declining trend line, which was in place since the beginning of the consolidation phase. So starting in April, at the end of April 2021.
Can I just ask, sorry to interrupt you, Nicolas, which moving average you're applying on the RSI there? Which one is it? The 14?
On the RSI, it's the 9 period. Moving average. In this case, it's not very, we try to use it in overbought or oversold areas. So for example, here, when the RSI is in the overbought area and fell below the moving average, so is escaping from the overbought area and fell below the moving average, we consider that we have a sell signal coming from the RSI. But a lot of time, for example, right now, it doesn't mean anything because we are in between the 50% and the 70% zone, so around 58%. So it's not very important at the moment. But yeah, we try to identify some signal thanks to the breakout of the moving average, either on the overbought area when the RSI fell below the moving average, or when we are oversold, when the RSI is oversold, is turning up above the moving average. It helps you to fine-tune timing, and it helps you to validate bullish or bearish signal on the RSI. But at the moment, the RSI is between 50 and 70%. So it's quite neutral to bullish because we don't see any reversal. Each time the RSI is pulling back towards the 50% zone, we can see a technical rebound. So we can see that the price index remains in a lateral consolidation phase. So it's flat in the last couple of weeks. And at the same time, we can see that the RSI is consolidating from its overbought area, which was reached in April. So this kind of configuration, most of the time, this is continuation trend patterns. When you have the RSI, which is consolidating slightly around the neutrality area, around 50%, very often you can expect a new up leg in the coming weeks or months. So the most likely scenario is a continuation of the uptrend if prices manage to push above the resistance threshold here at 448. That would open the way to a further rise towards the next Fibonacci projection level at 455 and in extension 462. So that would be the most likely scenario according to us, as long as prices are holding above this key support. You can see here the formation of the key support around 429. You have the support trend line on a short-term basis. You have also the lower Bollinger Band, which started to flatten out, indicating that we are currently in a neutral phase on the European market since the last month. But obviously, there is no reversal signal yet on the markets. And the most likely scenario, if we look at the RSI, if we look at the supporting technical elements, such as the rising trend line, such as the moving averages, especially the 51, you can see here in blue, the 50 moving average, which is in support since the beginning of this year. Each time prices have pulled back around the 50-day moving average, we have seen a technical rebound. And it was the case last week again. So for us right now, we don't see any reversal signal. And again, the most likely scenario is a continuation of the rise. Watch out closely the resistance threshold around 448. A break above it would open the way to a new up leg with a target at 455 and in extension 462. So that would be the main scenario, the most likely scenario according to us. And alternatively, of course, if we have a break below the 429 support threshold, that would open the way to a decline towards the medium-term rising trend line. If I adjust the chart here, you can see this key rising trend line in place since last year, since the bottom hit last year after the COVID bearish acceleration. So you can see here the bottom hit in March 2020. And we have a rising trend line in place since then, which is around 400, between 400 and 413. So in case of a break below 429, we could expect a kind of a correction move towards the support zone, 413 and 400. That will be the target in case of a break below 429. So that would be the alternative scenario in case of a break below the support threshold, the pivot point at 429. But again, according to us, we don't see any clear reversal signal for the moment. So we expect the continuation of the rise with the target here on the stock 600. Let me just show you the chart, why we are also bullish, because the banking sector, this is the banking sector. So sorry, this is another software, but it's the same thing. Just want to show you the banking sector because the banking sector started to outperform the other European sector in the last couple of months. And we think that there is still room for further upside on the banking sector. You can see here the charts. We think that the main target on the banking sector is set around 150, 152. So this is the S67P, if you want the detail of which sector we are checking out right now. So on this banking sector for Europe, we expect a further rise toward this key resistance threshold. So currently we are around 138. We expect 150, 152, which means that we still expect 8% rise on the banking sector in average. So that's a lot. So that's why we think there is still potential for upside movement on the European indices, especially because there is no sector rotation for the moment. The banking sector remains strong and we expect further rise on this one, as long as you can see here the support, the blue line, around 124, which is around the 20-week moving average, which is the key support. So as long as prices are holding above this support, we expect a further rise on the banking sector. So that's why we are still also positive on a short-term basis on the market, on the stock market, especially because we are still positive on the banking sector for the moment. We don't see any reversal signal. Of course, we can have some bad news in the coming days, and we will change our view. But for the moment, from a technical perspective, a technical point of view, there is no reason to be to turn bearish and to expect a reversal downtrend on the stock 600 or on the banking sector. We think there is still room for further upside. We have a slight consolidation pattern right now, but no reversal on the candlestick neither. The RSI is a bit overbought. Yes, this is kind of a warning signal, but nothing too much dangerous, to be honest, because it's just flat, as you can see here. If I just zoom in, we can see that the weekly RSI is just flat since the last month. So it means that I think there is a potential for further upside on the banking sector.
I've received just a couple of questions, but one of them, the pivot points do you use tend to be dailies or weeklies or?
It depends. So the previous one, so here is a weekly chart because it's easier to show you the pattern, but this one is a daily chart. So this is the forecast for the next couple of weeks, I would say. So this is we can expect this rise in the next couple of weeks between 4 and 8 weeks, I would say, in average. Of course, we don't know exactly. It depends on the volatility on the equity markets, but in average, or forecast for daily charts are in the next couple of weeks, so around 4 weeks. So that would be the scenario for the next couple of weeks. But of course, you always have to check the technical level. That's why we use technical analysis, because you can check technical support and resistance. And maybe we will stay in a consolidation phase in the next couple of weeks. I mean, as long as prices are stuck within this consolidation pattern, we don't know. Maybe we will stay within this pattern for a while, for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe several months. We don't know. It's unlikely. I think someday we will escape from this pattern, but it's very difficult to anticipate when we will escape from the pattern. So what we can say for the moment is that we are stuck in this consolidation pattern. We expect a break above it. That's the most likely scenario according to us, thanks to the technical analysis, to the technical configuration and indicator especially. But as long as we are within the pattern, of course, you can be a bit of cautious and you can maybe wait for a break of the pattern before doing something if you want to open position, or you can take advantage of pullback within the pattern to try to open again long position. That would be the main idea, the main scenario right now. But of course, we adjust the scenario on a day-to-day basis according to the news, according to what happened in the markets, of course. But that's the scenario at the moment. So the scenario for the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
On the stock 600.
On the stock 600. If you don't mind, can I interject and just give a very quick minute to our audience just to translate that view, if you don't mind? And I appreciate it. I don't want to interrupt your flow, because I know when you're flowing, particularly as an analyst, it's always good to keep going. But I'm just going to switch to Spanish. Les comento, la pregunta que hice fue cómo veía Nicolas y el equipo los mercados ahora mismo y, digamos, en las próximas semanas, enfocando primordialmente ahora en Europa. Entonces, él escoge, por ejemplo, el gráfico del Eurostock 600. No es un índice que ofrecemos nosotros en IG, pero sí lo ofrecemos en modo de ETF. Y es un barómetro de mercado muy bueno porque se analizan las 600 empresas más grandes de Europa. Y él ve que aunque hay lo que se observa que es un periodo de consolidación y digamos un periodo donde no es que estemos estancados, pero con poco movimiento, no hay pautas para indicar que el mercado vaya a bajar. Es decir, estaría buscando argumentos para entrar, argumentos para subir, para que esto sube. Y en este momento el RSI está respaldándose en el nivel del 50, también estamos respaldándonos en la media móvil de 50 días, y un nivel clave que es 429 para ese Eurostock 600, que también está siendo respaldado. Esto lo mira en un periodo diario, pero también lo miró en el sector bancario. El sector bancario europeo va bastante fuerte, y para darle un toque macro a este análisis, no se ve una rotación sectorial fuera de los bancos. Es decir, si los bancos van fuerte, suelen acompañar y ayudar a la tesis de un mercado europeo que tiene la perspectiva más positiva que negativa ahora mismo. No hay, digamos, esta señal de bajista fuerte, o no hay indicación de que haya un movimiento bajista en el horizonte en las próximas semanas. Sorry, I didn't want to take too much, Nicolas, as you were. So we were looking at the banking sector, we were looking at the stock 600. I think there might have been something else you were looking to add.
Yeah, maybe the customers may be interested to have the view on the Spanish market, the IBEX 35.
Yes, I was quite interested to ask, because if you say the banking sector is doing well, then
exactly.
Of course, the IBEX being top heavy on the banks,
exactly.
I think that it's actually a really interesting market to be looking at, and it's one of the best performers of the year, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say and to explain. And that's why we did some recommendation on the IBEX 35 in the last couple of weeks, because we have seen a bullish event. So let me explain. This is not the IBEX 35. First, I want to show you the ratio between the IBEX 35 and the stock 600. So you can see out performance and underperformance of the Spanish index against the European markets, against the stock 600, the benchmark. So this is the daily chart, and we can see that the Spanish index started to outperform the stock 600. So this is something that we do very often. We also check ratio between an index and a benchmark, or between a sector and the benchmark. We very often use some ratio to identify opportunities on the market. And especially on the IBEX, we can see that we have seen this breakout of this consolidation pattern so at around April, and that has confirmed a reversal of trend on the ratio, and meaning that we are still expecting a further outperformance, further rise on the ratio, so further outperformance of the Spanish index, the IBEX, against the European markets, which is in line with the outperformance of the banking sector. So we think there is still room for further upside, as you can see here, towards this key target. If I just zoom out a little bit so you can see the big picture. So this is the daily chart, but of course, if we look at the weekly charts, you can see here that the trend is obviously very bearish. Since 2009, of course, the IBEX 35 clearly underperformed in Europe in the last 10 years. So I don't, this is not a surprise. I mean, everyone knows that, but just to show you the big picture. So the trend is bearish on the long run, but on a short-term basis, we have identified this bullish event here, which was also on the RSI. And that's something I wanted to show you. How to use the RSI. You can identify early breakout on the RSI, and you can use this early breakout to anticipate breakout on the price. Let me just to explain. If you look at the RSI, the trend line has been broken here. You can see the vertical line. So we see the breakout of the declining trend line. So the bullish event was validated here on the RSI. But at the same time, you can see that on the ratio, the ratio was still in the consolidation pattern, was still capped by the declining trend line. So that's a way to use the RSI. Sometimes you can anticipate breakout on the ratio because you have an early signal coming from the RSI. So this is just an example on how to use the RSI when you try to do charting on the indicator. So in this example, the breakout of the trend line was an advanced signal of the breakout of the declining trend line on the ratio. And okay, so yeah, just to explain that we still expect outperformance of the Spanish index. So if we go back to this one, and if we check the technical picture, here, so what do we have? So this is the Spanish index, so the IBEX 35. So we can identify the uptrend. We can identify this nice breakout here of the consolidation pattern. This is an ascending triangle pattern. This was a very interesting breakout. I remember that we offered some trading ideas around this area in the past, so in April, thanks to the breakout of this key ascending triangle pattern, which was very interesting, technical event. So now what's happening now? The trend remains bullish, supported by the rising 20-day moving average. You can see here the test of the moving average with the long lower shadow candlestick. So buyers are still there, that's for sure, thanks to this interesting candlestick pattern. However, on a short-term basis, we can identify here the formation of a rising wedge pattern. This is a warning signal because this is kind of a breathlessness pattern. So we may have some consolidation, but it's not for sure. For the moment, the trend remains bullish. We have a kind of consolidation around the top of the pattern. But to be honest, as long as prices are holding above the intermediary support here around the 20-day moving average, so around 99.78, which is a key support threshold, the most likely scenario is a continuation of the uptrend and a break above the pattern here. That's the most likely scenario, which would open the path to see further rise towards the next key resistance around 96.60 on the IBEX 30. So that's the view. We can see that the RSI is not overbought. So it's between 50%, 70%. No clear reversal signal. It's still holding above a former declining trend line, which has been broken. So a bit of warning signal close to the upper end of this potential rising wedge pattern. But as long as the pattern is not validated, we expect a further rise. If prices fell below the pattern, the lower end of the pattern, and also below the 20-day moving average, thus we would have a more cautious, we would become a bit more cautious. And if prices fell below 89.78, we would expect a reversal downtrend, at least to see this key support zone. But this is not the most likely scenario according to us for now. So unless there is a bad news in the market, we expect a continuation of the rise in the coming weeks. That's the most likely scenario, and we will have a look at this technical resistance at 9,300, and in extension we could expect 9,660 mark in the coming weeks. So that's the main scenario for the IBEX 35.
Fantastic. If you don't mind, I'll be as quick as I can. A continuación, con lo que hablábamos de que el sector bancario lo ven fuerte desde Trading Central en la zona euro, pues también llega uno a la lógica conclusión de que el IBEX 35, siendo un índice también con un peso de los bancos muy fuerte, que también tiene una perspectiva bastante positiva en las próximas semanas. Ellos, por ejemplo, el gráfico previo a este era el gráfico que comparaba el IBEX 35 con el Eurostock 600, y veía que ese ratio, aunque llevábamos varios años muy bajistas, digamos a corto plazo, estaba demostrando por ciertos factores técnicos explicados por Nicolas que daba la sensación de que el IBEX va a tener un buen repunte. También aquí, por el hecho de que se están consolidando con una tendencia alcista a corto plazo, más respetando en el RSI, el soporte en el RSI, que el IBEX 35 puede apuntar al primer objetivo, que sería 9.660. para luego seguir en extensión. Estarían únicamente preocupados ya si vuelve a bajar a 8.978. Yo creo que veremos más los que se dan de alta en las señales de Trading Central. Yo creo que en las próximas semanas tendremos unas buenas señales del IBEX 35 porque desde el punto de vista técnico ellos lo ven bastante atractivo. Okay, I think that was summarized too. I'm not sure if...
Thanks. Maybe we can see if there is question. I can show other underlyings, but maybe the easiest way is maybe to ask people if maybe they have question.
Yeah.
If they want me to speak about a specific asset or something like this.
Lo que estamos planteando ya para los últimos minutos es ver si alguien en nuestra audiencia ahora mismo tiene algún mercado que gustaría que nosotros pongamos la lupa, el enfoque para ver cómo tiene esa perspectiva. No sé si les invito a escribirnos ahora mismo al chat por si hay algún mercado que no hemos tocado que quieras que analicemos ahora mismo para dar esa perspectiva. I've just thrown out the question. I've received someone asking me, one of my clients actually, who comes through from a different channel, asking me about the DAX and XLF as well. But certainly the DAX, we have a number of clients, retail clients really like the DAX. It's very volatile. It's something.
Yeah, sure. So you can see it. I just share the DAX on the charts. I will just quit this up. The DAX, look at this. It's almost the same story than for the Stock 600 and the other European markets. The DAX was a bit lagging in Europe in the last couple of weeks because of the banking sector, especially the rise in the banking stocks has driven the markets. So of course the DAX was a bit lagging. However, the trend remains bullish, and you can see here the consolidation pattern, the rectangle pattern here. So prices are challenging the upper end of the consolidation range, the lateral consolidation range. I think the most likely scenario is a break above the resistance. So today we have seen again a false upward breakout. This is in the last couple of weeks we have seen many of these false upward breakouts. So the first one was last week here. We had a first false breakout of the upper Bollinger boundary and the upper of the trading range, the upper end of the trading range. And today it was the same story because you can see here the black candle. So this morning it was about to break above the pattern, the consolidation pattern, but it didn't confirm today, and we have a pullback again. But it doesn't mean that the trend will reverse down. For now, it just means that maybe the breakout, we will have to wait for the breakout a little bit more. The trend remains bullish. You can see here the blue line. This is the 50-week moving average, which is in support since the beginning of the bullish trend. So as long as prices are holding above this support, the trend will remain bullish, and the most likely scenario is a break above the resistance and a continuation of the uptrend. In case of a break above the consolidation pattern here, we would expect the theoretical target of this pattern, which would be around 16,200, which is the measure move target of the pattern. So that would be the most likely scenario. We can see some other pullback, but as long as prices are holding above the key support at 14,800, the most likely scenario is a break above the upper end of the range, the upper end of the pattern here, the consolidation pattern, and a further rise on the DAX. So regarding the strategy, it's a bit complicated because either you can wait for a clear breakout of the upper end of the pattern before opening long position, or you can take advantage of a pullback to open another long position. I think this is what we will try to do in the coming days. If we have a pullback, we will try maybe to open long position again on the DAX with a technical support around the lower end of the lower Bollinger Boundary here, which has started to flatten out. You can also expect a volatility breakout on Bollinger Band, because you can see here, Bollinger Band are narrowing, meaning that we are clearly, there is clearly a lack of momentum on a short-term basis, because on a more longer run, the trend is clearly bullish. But in the last couple of weeks, the trend is neutral within this pattern. So if we can identify a volatility breakout on Bollinger Band, meaning that the upper Bollinger Band will rise very quickly, then we will try also to open a position and to expect a further rise toward the theoretical target, the measure up move target. So there is different kind of scenario which are possible in the coming days and coming weeks. It will depend on the configuration on an intraday and daily basis. But to summarize and to sum up on the DAX, the trend is bullish, and we need to see a break of this pattern to become more confident in a further rise and to expect a rise toward the measure up move target at 16,200.
Fantastic. I'm really conscious of the time, and I just want to ask for one last market, one very last takeaway, because I think our clients would love it. Euro dollar. We get asked it a lot, and it's just that last thing just to leave us with. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm not sure how you're seeing it. Fascinating market since April, as you can see there on the chart.
Exactly. Well, euro dollar, we still expect further rise and continuation of the rebound, because we don't see for the moment any clear reversal signal. However, as you can see here, we can identify what we call a rising wedge pattern, which is a warning signal, which is a breathlessness pattern, as I explained earlier. It means that if prices fell below the upper end of the pattern, that will validate a kind of a bearish signal on the euro dollar. But for the moment, it's not the case. And for the moment, the trend is supported by the rising 20-day moving average. We have here the support in blue at 1.2126, which is a key horizontal support. So for the moment, no reason to be cautious. A continuation of the rise remains the most likely scenario. You can see here overlap zone with an internal trend line. So the RSI is not overbought. It's within its buying area, above 50%. It's below 70%. It's not overbought. So there is no reason to be cautious at the moment and to see some reversal signal.
Okay.
The first key support is set here at 1.2126. If prices fell below it, we would become more cautious. But for the moment, the most likely scenario is a continuation of the rise towards at least 1.2350, which is the next bullish target. But before prices can go there, we need to see a break above the upper end of the pattern and the upper Bollinger Boundary. You can see today the upper shadow candlestick pattern. That's a warning signal just around the upper Bollinger Band here, meaning that it's a bit overbought from a chartist point of view, and maybe we could see some intraday reversal signal. But on a daily chart, the trend will remain bullish with the first support at 1.2126. And in case of a break below the resistance today at 1.2270, that would be the trigger for a further rise to see 1.2350. But a bit of cautious because of today candlestick near the upper Bollinger Boundary. That's a kind of a warning signal here. So we may see some pullback before prices can resume uptrend.
Yeah, superb. So
possible scenario.
takeaway is 16,200 on the DAX, which is actually the same objective that our analyst Sergio Avila had, and he published in a newspaper in Estrategias de Inversión the other day. And I'm looking out for 121.26 on euro dollar then as that resistance. I'll quickly summarize and then we'll wrap up if I may, Nicolas.
Sure.
Simplemente estaba dando un resumen un poco del DAX y el euro dólar, que el DAX lo veía bastante alcista, también reflejando un poco ese periodo de consolidación que estamos viendo ahora mismo. Sin embargo, un objetivo de 16.200, el punto de la mira. Curiosamente, es el mismo objetivo que nuestro analista Sergio Ávila destacó en estrategias de inversión el otro día. También en euro dólar, pues que el movimiento sigue siendo alcista, quizás con un poco de agotamiento, siempre mirando ese soporte en 1.21-1.26 en primer instante. Lo que vamos a hacer ahora es despedirnos de Nicolás. Yo veo que la última duda que tenemos en español, ¿qué días se envían las señales? Hay una hora precisa. Realmente son los mercados que determinan cuándo se generan las señales. Se intenta enviar 3 a 4 a la semana, más o menos a media mañana, pero a veces cambia. La idea es que sea en un momento de tranquilidad para que puedas recibir y actuar sobre ella, porque entendemos o se entiende que cuando hay mucha volatilidad ya es más probable que la señal caduque rápidamente y llegas tarde. ¿Vale? Nicolas, it's been an absolute pleasure, really eye-opening. Thank you very much for your time on behalf of...
I hope it was useful for the customer,
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly for me, I have a number of clients who are looking at key objectives in the short term, particularly on the IBEX and the DAX, and you've given me some great answers for me, myself, and my job, I'm sure for the rest of the clients as well. So thank you to you. I just want to say a quick goodbye in Spanish. Nos estamos despidiendo. Quiero agradecer por parte de IG la participación de Nicolas Suiffet, que es el jefe de análisis para la oficina europea de Trading Central desde París. Sí que quiero dejar el último punto para destacar con el tema de los turbos. Tenemos en el mes de mayo, y esta es la última semana, todavía estáis a tiempo. Si deseas abrir una cuenta de turbos con un ingreso de 1.000 euros y una operación, a finales de esta semana recibes un abono de 200 euros. Entonces, les animo a aprovechar ese abono, esa promoción que acaba esta semana. Para cualquier otra información, por favor, contáctenos en ig.com o atencionalcliente@ig.com. También síguenos en Twitter y en YouTube. Ahí tenemos toda la información a su alcance. Many thanks again, Nicolás. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias a todos por conectar. Que tengan muy buena tarde. Otra vez cerramos una jornada de Trading Talks con IG.
Si mantienes la cabeza en su sitio, cuando a tu alrededor todos la pierden, si sigues creyendo en ti mismo cuando los demás dudan, ¿qué oportunidades ves? Si te encuentras con el triunfo y el fracaso y consigues tratar a esos dos impostores por igual, si eres capaz de ver la oportunidad, el mundo del trading es para ti. Cuando ves la oportunidad,